Brennon, are you ready to take some calls now?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited to get into it and start hearing from some people.
All right, well, let's get into it here. We have for our first call of the night, we got Kelly, who's calling in from Michigan. Kelly, you're live on Truth Wanted. What's going on?
Hi, Dan. How are you?
Doing good, doing good. How's it going, Kelly? Long time no see.
Hi, Brennon. It's good to see you on the show. You had mentioned earlier when you were talking to Dan that you had a ghost experience when you were younger, and I got really curious about that. And I thought if you would tell us about that, I might tell you about my experience working at a haunted bar.
Ooh.
Yeah, I would absolutely love to share it. So, as a kid, hanging out at a what I would reckon to call a sleepover with my middle school friend, childhood friend. We hung out pretty often at his house. He had a trampoline, and we were out at night hanging out on the trampoline, just doing teenage boy stuff, being rowdy. And he had told me that his house was haunted, and being young and impressionable, I took that very seriously as a serious threat for sure. And we're hanging out on the trampoline, and a light comes on in his bedroom in the house. Mind you, the only people that would have been in the house were asleep hours before at this point and had no reason to be in his room. And what I saw in the window appeared certainly to be something that I would call an aberration, which scared me senseless. My friend at the time, he would have said the same. He would have backed me up on the story, and I never really got a satisfying answer for it. But as a skeptic in my adulthood, it certainly does start to come together pretty clearly that it was probably just his parents checking on him, trying to figure out where the hell we were.
Yeah, that might be a good explanation. But at least you saw something, and now my story isn't as exciting as that because I didn't actually see an apparition. But I worked in a haunted bar for about 10 years in College Town in northern Illinois. And while I never saw the apparition myself, many of the other employees did. The boss definitely said that she had seen her several times, but she was there a lot more than the rest of us was alone during the day. But one night when I was closing the place up, and I would lock up the cash register till in the back room, and I was locking it up, putting a padlock on it, and the light behind me started flickering on and off. And I walked out back into the main bar, and there was two people there, the guy who was the bouncer that night, and my girlfriend at the time that was waiting for me to leave. And I walked out, and I jokingly said to them, "Oh, the ghost is in the back room. It's messing with the light right now." So they both jumped up and went, and were like, "Oh, let's go check it out," and started walking towards the door to the back room. And they got about halfway there, and the door swung open by itself. And they did like a complete 180 and ran up the stairs instead. So it was a pretty funny story to have been there. But that was like the closest I ever saw to seeing an actual ghost in the place. Although there were a lot of stories. I had a guy came in one night. He was working as a bouncer with me. I was the bartender. And he worked one night. I sent him into the basement to get some beer to fill up the cooler behind the bar. And he came back up just minutes later without the beer and went, "So, what, is this place haunted or something?" And I was like, "Well, yeah, they say that." And he swore he saw the ghost standing at the bar in the basement. And we had it was a double level bar. So, and he quit the next day. I mean, that's actually true.
What? No.
He swore he saw the ghost and he quit the next day. So, but
no.
I never saw anything there after working all that time. So,
Kelly, what is it? You always hear. What is the deal? Because you never hear about haunted stories at like an office building. It's always like a bar or like a hotel. Like those are like the two big ones, right? And maybe like an old house or something. But it's never just like, "Oh, I was working at Subway and I found the ghost that haunts our Subway." You know what I mean?
The ghost of Subway.
Yeah.
There was a girl who had actually gotten killed in the bar back in the I think it was late 70s or early 80s. It had been a discotheque back then. And we actually had the copy of the newspaper story hanging up on the wall because they kind of, the owner kind of liked to spread the ghost story around because it actually would kind of brought business in, honestly. People would ask us about it. But a girl actually did die there. She was hit by a piece of flying glass from an ashtray, beer bottle, broken glass, and it cut her neck, and she actually bled to death before the ambulance could get there. So,
oh my God.
Sad story, but
Wow.
kind of helped fuel the whole haunted story too. So,
what do you think, Kelly? Do you think you actually saw a ghost?
I don't know. There were a couple other times when like my immediate boss, not the owner but his daughter, she came by once, went through that same door, right? And I was standing at the bar, I was cutting limes, and then she came back out and I started talking to her. I never looked at her. I just saw her out of the corner of my eye. And then I turned because she wasn't answering me when I asked the question. So I turned to look at her and she wasn't there. And then she walked out of the door just a split second later. And I was kind of looking at her kind of funny. And she went, "You just saw the ghost, didn't you?"
All right.
But
now, Kelly,
what I thought was her out of the corner of my eye. So
I know you're working at this bar. Were you getting high off your own supply here? I mean, I know the shifts at bars.
You know what?
I'm just saying they get long. No judgment here. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I get you. I was actually the second level of bosses there. I was one of the bar managers. So, and it was a pretty lucrative job, I got to admit. For the time period, and it was pretty good work for me. So I didn't want to blow that. And we were definitely not allowed to drink at all while we were working. So I also have pancreatitis, so I don't drink.
Oh, okay. All right, that's a pretty strong alibi.
I found when I was working as a bar manager, the people who were bartenders would either be full-blown alcoholics or they wouldn't drink at all. It was there was like no in between.
That makes sense. So like Kelly, you're a skeptical person, I think, right? So like, what do you think is your best explanation of events here?
It was an older building, so probably just some faulty electrical wiring. And there's a really good chance that when I came back out making a joke that I didn't fully close the door all the way.
Okay.
That's what I've always thought. And
that works for me.
I really loved it. Yeah, right. That worked for me too. But it was so funny to watch the other two people just do that 180-degree turn and run up the stairs. It was pretty good.
That is pretty wild that somebody would leave. I guess they didn't need the money because, like, look, if I find a place and it's actually haunted, one, that might actually want me to stay, but two, I'd just be like, look, man, in this economy, I gotta, dude, I gotta do it. If the ghosts tip well, I don't even care. You know what I mean? So
anyway.
Right. I guess it.
Go ahead.
I was just saying, depending on how spiritual the person is, that he may take that ghost as a serious threat on his life. I mean, I can certainly see some people that I know in my personal life would probably make the same decision. But me, I'm probably the one who's going to go investigate it, do the 180 and march right over to the door and figure out what's going on.
I'm going to call the Ghostbusters, dude.
Mm-hmm.
I got to get their help on this. But hey, Kelly, that's a really fun story. I really appreciate you calling in on that. We are going to be doing some fun stories next week as well in our Halloween thing. So hopefully you're going to be sticking around for that.
I was kind of hoping this would be a lead up to that. So.
Oh yeah, this is the beginning of the layup. And next week we're going to be dunking for you. Okay? So I'm serious. Halloween is it's like our show's holiday. It really is. It's what we're going to be doing stuff for us. But anyway, Kelly, thanks so much for supporting the show and calling in. Really appreciate your time. And that was Kelly, ladies and gentlemen, who's been on this show before and who also appears on some other shows too. So he's sticking around and giving us a call. We love that. So thanks again, Kelly.